Hello, we're live showing you DesignShop this morning. This is Sue from Melco and Nate, as you guys probably already know. You've seen a million videos. We are doing the DesignShop version 10 live. So if you have questions, you're welcome to post them. We have some questions that we've previously gotten this week, so we're going to start with those questions, and then as they come in, we'll answer questions on DesignShop.
And I got the microphones fixed, so Scott's mic'd up too, and he's here
Hello, everybody.
looking for questions and answers and whatnot. So.
Yep, so Scott will be reading us questions, then we'll repeat them. So let's start with, what else? Did we have anything else to begin with? I think it was it.
Other than a thank you for posting your comments and questions early so that we can be a little more prepared, or at least pretend to be for this.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up a Word document. Maybe not. Did it come up?
Oh, sorry. That would be my fault.
And these are some of the questions that we're going to go over. Hopefully we'll get to every one of them. The first one is, how do I replace jump stitches with trims? So if you have a design on DesignShop that's an expanded design, typically this happens in. I have an expanded design loaded. If you can, I'm going to zoom in here, you'll see between the little dots on the fish, it's not trimming. So you can fix this. We did a video, just real quick, I just want you to know that there's a video on this. It's called Expanded Editing, and I'm going to bring it up. It's on, oops, not there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It is on the Melco YouTube channel, and it's called Expanded Editing. Scott did this a few months ago. So you can go through this whole expanded editing video and watch it. You can also, more than likely, find it in our DesignShop user's manual. But we're going to go over it real quick. So again, there's no trims between the little, whatever these are called on the fish.
Speckles, dots, I have no idea.
I fish and I don't even know what they're called, actually. So just go to Tools and Options. So I'm just going to kind of hold it open just for a second. And then under Tools and Options, under the File Options tab, that's where I'm at, you'll see at the bottom it's Expanded Open Jump Stitch for Trim. It's normally on 3, that's the default. So put it on 1 and it'll trim between everything. If you put it on 0, it's going to disable it, so just don't put it on 0. So I have to put it on 1 and then I got to restart DesignShop and reopen it. So that's the critical part of this. So click on OK, and then I'm going to...
I don't know that you need to restart DesignShop. You may just have to close the design and open it again.
Oh, maybe that's true. That's right, that's true.
Some things you do, some things you don't,
that's
and
true.
I never
Actually,
remember from time to time, but I think this is one of those.
It's true. It's true.
Sorry?
So
I
here,
just do it because it's safe.
it's safe.
You know it's going to work.
So now let me zoom to, well, Nate's right about, oh, didn't do it.
Does it have a jump between it? So another thing, if you're
No,
seeing
this'll
that and
work.
it's...
As long as I close DesignShop, it'll work.
Okay. If you're seeing it and it's not changing, you might have a design that doesn't have jumps,
Good point.
jump commands between them.
Right, good
And
point.
no matter what you change that number to, it's just not going to happen, and you can go in and insert manual trims, which is super fun.
So now,
Split object, right?
so now let me,
That too.
so now let me reopen that design and let's just check it. It's called brookie.exp. And so I'm going to put it in 3D because it's easier to see. And zoom in, and it should have fixed.
Oh, it doesn't have a trim between it,
Okay.
or a jump between it.
Well,
Is
that's
that-
weird. Let me go back to options.
So the video, I show how to
Is this what that one was?
lower the number catches 90% of,
Right,
of them. And
right.
then there's some that, like Nate said, doesn't have
So
There's no
do me a
jump.
favor.
It's just stitching from here to
Do
here.
me a favor and change that to 3,
Okay.
so it would open normally.
Right.
Close it, open it again, and you'll
Oh,
see
that's
like
what I did.
That's the
jumps that you were already filtering out.
Okay. All right. So let me close it.
And then the speckles were
So
ones
that
that
was
we
my
went
fault
in and
'cause I
trimmed.
just tested it before. Okay. So now we're going to change it to 1. So I'll open the design, and you'll see on Brookie, the jump, they're still there. My bad on that one, actually. So here they are. See, there's lots of them. There's no trims in here.
That was the difference.
Yep, so that was the difference right there. So go to Options, I'll put it back to 1, and then click on OK, get out of DesignShop, get back in, and reopen it, and you'll see a big difference. So that was my fault. I already had it set to 1.
Yep.
So here now, when I zoom in on it, you'll see.
It's trimming between all the light blue.
Yeah, so there's no jumps in here is what it means. So there's really, you have to go in and do it manually, which Scott did a video on. So you just have to break the elements and put a manual trim in, and we did a whole video section
On this
on
same
that.
trout too.
Right.
so,
Yeah.
Right.
being
On the
Super
same
convenient.
design, yeah.
Super convenient.
Okay, so I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Not yet. Lots of hellos from lots of all over New York, California.
okay.
Yeah.
So you can set that at 1 and leave it if you want your machine to trim more often, right?
True.
Right.
Instead of at 3.
Absolutely true.
Yep, so, okay, we had a question, I had a question earlier in the week on project view explanation, and then there was another one is what happens if it disappears, so we'll address both.
Yeah, it was a cry from help on Facebook of help, my project view went away, what do I do? And a lot of you guys commented with the answer, which was awesome, thank you. But this way we can actually show it so you have a video of how it works.
So, yeah, so if it disappears, okay, I'm gonna make it disappear. If you click on that X, it's gone. So you need your project view. It's super important to be able to do editing and resequencing and everything with DesignShop. So if you turn it off just by mistake, and it happens, do view, and then go to project views right here, and just turn project view 1 on, and that'll turn it back on.
Would you go view and project view again?
Mm-hmm.
So see how it has a check mark by it?
Yeah,
If-
good point.
If you're like me and you've moved things around on multiple monitors and your project view has disappeared and that check mark is there, it's on the other monitor. Go look for it there.
Yeah, that's true. You can also, kind of scoot this over a little bit too if it's too big.
Yeah.
So a little bit of an explanation on the project view, because we have done videos on this, and if you go to melcouniversity.com, you'll be able to see under the media tab, we've done lots of videos on DesignShop.
I need to put a couple more
Pre-recorded
playlists in
videos.
there for you guys. I should put the Facebook Live playlist in there
That
and
would
the
be
Design
nice.
Shop talk.
Yeah, that'd be
I'll do
really
that.
nice.
I'll try to get that done today.
But there is an explanation in here on the project view, so just so you know. They're great videos, Nate did them, that's where you guys probably recognize them from. So, but just a quick explanation. The very top part of the project view, this is your project. So this is your entire project. It's just highlighting everything that's on my screen, everything that's in this window. I don't have 2 designs on my screen, so let me just insert a design real quick and show you what the design view is. I'll just insert 1 leaf.
I totally thought you were going to do 2 day.
1 day and 2 days.
That's
So-
what I always did.
So the design the design view is any changes being made at this view is going to affect the entire design. So if I have this design selected and if I scale it, it's going to affect this design, not the leaf design. And then this, again, I'm in the design view. If I select the leaf, and I make some changes, like scaling, it's going to affect the leaf, not the 1 day. So that's the project view, that's the design view, and then the next one is the color. So if you notice, I'm selecting just 1 color at a time. Any changes I make is just going to affect that color. So if I want to change just this pair, I can change just that pair. Okay, I'm going to undo, but that's the next part of the project view. So there's the project, the design, the color, and then the next is the actual element. So each, here, I'm going to go back, sorry.
So you've got the color block now,
Yep,
and now you've got the individual element.
so now I have each individual element. So there's the color block, there's the element.
And then if you want to get crazy like Scott or Sue,
Yep.
you can go down to the input point.
So now you have the input point. So now you can just move any input point. So there's 4, actually is there 5? Project, design, color, element,
5.
point. 5.
Sorry, I'm reading comments.
Okay, what's the comment?
Jennifer says she and the leaf are good friends. She scaled it down 75%, which makes me really twitchy
Oh,
because
that's
there's
a
some
lot.
small stitches in
It's a
there.
lot.
She said
So-
she made it work. I'm impressed.
So that's good because typically we suggest that you scale a design 15 to 20%, just because things change. Fill stitches need to be satin stitches need to be fill stitches, but it's easier to go down than up, I think, so.
I go the other way. I think up is easier than down.
Oh, okay, well,
Because
Everybody sees
if I'm
the diff-
shrinking areas, then I get smaller than my needle.
So, yeah, I mean,
I
it
bet
just
it's the
depends
kind
on
of
the
designs you
design.
deal with.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
So, okay, so there's the project view explanation. I don't know if there's any questions on that, Scott or
Nope,
Nate?
none yet.
Okay. Again, there's a whole explanation on the videos and in the manual. What do you want to touch next?
Do line
Lettering
types.
line types?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do lettering line types. I'm going to go to a new screen and then go into lettering, which is right here. Sometimes we go a little fast. Sorry about that.
I don't know what the question was, other than line types.
Just explain.
Just what are they?
Yeah, just
Cool.
arc and straight lines.
Okay.
So, so I'm going to go into lettering. I'm going to click on my screen, and then I'm going to press enter. So I get my lettering dialog box up here. It's easier to explain. So I'll just type Melco, just because we're Melco, right? So let's change the color so you can see it. And then the line types are right here. It automatically defaults to a straight line. More commonly than not, you're going to do an arc. So arc is right here. So the question I was asked was the difference between straight, vertical, and arc. So vertical is going to do up and down. I'm going to go back to a straight.
I was going to say not one I use overly often.
That's true. And then arc. So let's just explain arc a little bit. Do apply. It's using the defaults. So the radius is 3. If you want a flatter line, you're going to go up on this, a straighter line, so you're going to go up to a 5. If you want a more curved line, is that a word, more curved? You're going to go to just the lower you go, the more curved it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then the angle is where it's sewing on the arc. So if we complete this circle, we're sewing at 0 right now. 90 would be over to the right, and then 180 would be a lower arc. Typically, when you do a lower arc, you're going to make it counterclockwise. So it's just so you can read it.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So typically, an upper arc is 0 and clockwise, and a lower arc is 180 and counterclockwise. But again, all this is in the manual, and I know we've done videos on this. So, okay. What else?
Well, there's a question.
Oh, okay. We'll take that.
It has nothing to do with DesignShop.
Okay.
When are you headed back to Alaska?
Oh, no.
Travis.
See, who was that? Travis.
Yeah.
Hi, Travis. How are you? Actually, I'm thinking about taking a cruise there. But that wouldn't be till next year. Not in the wintertime, that's for sure. Travis. is
Oof.
nice you're on, Travis. Just so you guys know, when you're in Alaska, this is where you get all your help from stuff like this. I mean, they're really self-taught. So I was very impressed when I visited customers there. A lot of people are self-taught, and I know Travis is a lot. All right. Any other questions?
One that I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't
Edith is saying she used the aim. I'm thinking, these guys.
Minus space?
Yeah, the add and adjust space between the letters.
Let's go back to the
And
screen.
it distorted the letters' stitch direction. And I can't come up with why that would happen because it doesn't, and Scott will get into this. So to confirm, yes, on Wednesday of next week, we're talking about Alphabet Editor and how the alphabets actually work and how they're spaced and one letter to the next. And all that does is move the space between the letters. So I super can't come up with why that would change a stitch direction.
Wonder which alphabet it was?
All those are really good questions. What alphabet was it? How did that happen? Was there another, was like envelope or perspective on there where it actually can affect the wireframe and then it
that
was
could've
applied?
been- that could've been
Maybe that
one
could
of
do
these.
something. Yeah, I
Make
don't.
sure-
So the question was, we're using the two kind of manual kerning marks, the remove space and add space with the
Right.
little A and the
Just right
arrows.
here?
Yeah, and she said that it changed the stitch directions in her letters, and I super can't come up with why that could be. But if you have an example file,
Maybe send it to us.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Maybe True Type or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, maybe it was a true type alphabet.
Could be.
Okay. Yeah, send it to us so we can see it, because that's something that I haven't seen either. So, I mean, but I don't know who's asking that question.
Edith?
Edith.
Yeah.
So she's asking about, these this little A with the left arrow, A with the right arrow. This is manual spacing between the letters.
Yeah.
And so it's changing the stitch direction, which I'm not sure why, but maybe you
I
can send it to us.
super can't come up with how, but that's okay. We'll take a look.
Okay.
While you're on lettering,
Yep, so we want to do the lettering or the block fonts.
yeah.
It's going to explain this.
So one of the questions that we got was when I'm using, and I don't even think it said specifically block, or did it? I can't remember. When I'm using keyboard alphabets, they don't all sew out the same. They sew differently. Some of them do, some of them don't. And what that may look like is I have a bunch of different letters, and some are slightly taller than the others. Why is that? Can you grab like a big
Micro?
version of, yeah, micro would be great.
I'm gonna say
And so this gets into a bit of a time warp. Way back before we had pull compensation really built into the software where you could apply it, some of those older alphabets, especially ones with smaller size ranges in mind, had pull compensation manually digitized into all the letters. So depending on your stitch direction, they would stick out more so that when it got pulled in, it would pull one direction, and then as it pushed, it would push down. And I know I'm like doing things with my hands, so I'm going to go back to the screen so that we can see what's going on here. So if you look at this, this is micro block. And where the stitches are horizontal, so at the top of the, and we're looking at the bottom one right now, at the top of the L, at the top of the M, at the bottom of the M, you'll notice that they're pulled short. And that is so that as stitches pull in, they'll push the opposite direction, and they will push to kind of compensate and make themselves look right. If this was sewn at the
Small.
recommended size,
I have
that,
it 1 inch.
that
so
push
keep
would
that in
be
mind.
about the right amount.
Right. So
If you make it
just
really
to show you
big-
an example on the screen, but if you wouldn't be able to see it if we made it 1/4 of an inch. So,
Yeah.
So yeah.
If you were to sew this out at 1/4 of an inch, it would push and pull and look about right.
It's perfect.
The vertical stitches on the top of the O's, the vertical stitches on the bottom of the L, they would all pull in. The others would push, and they would kind of meet up. At least that's the idea. Now, as that became a property that you could then apply to compensate for stuff like that, the top version of lettering, which one is that?
That's block. Just not
Block. Okay, block 2. They kind of line up a little bit more.
At
So
the
then,
size.
and then you would need to apply pull compensation to avoid all of that push and pull. So the one that has it digitized in, if you sew it out at sizes that's not recommended, you're going to see the digitized pull compensation. If you, sorry, I was reading a comment and trying to talk at the same time and my brain collided. If you sew one that is digitized normally and don't have pull compensation, you're actually going to see that push and pull, and it's actually going to push and pull in the opposite direction, and you're going to get those tall and short letters. So to kind of sum up, if you see it being offset like the bottom one in your design,
And I just made it real small.
which you'll still see it a little bit on there, go ahead and sew that out, and the action of the stitching will kind of even that out. If you have one like the top and it looks perfect on screen, but when you sew it out, it's all up and down, you may need to add a little bit of pull offset.
Right.
So can you add
Right
like,
here. I just
do
added-
something ridiculous like 5 so they can see it. So now you can see at the top of the L, it's shorter than the top of the E. And so it will push, and as it's sewing, that will compensate for itself.
And typically for the small letters, it's more important. So than the
True,
big
you'll
letters.
see it more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the size range on micro blocks 0.20 to 0.35.
Yeah.
I don't even
So
know.
if you have such a small range, I can compensate the letters pretty close for you. But on normal alphabets, if you're going to sew this alphabet at 3/8 of an inch, 0.35 up to 2.5 inches, I can't compensate.
Right.
You're like, whatever, how many percent is that? 300%?
Right.
So yeah, it's impossible to do it on alphabets with a huge size range.
To manually do it.
So
You can have it look right, and then you, the user, not poor Scott the digitizer, trying to guess what you're going to do with these alphabets. You, the
what
user,
you're going to sew it on, right?
what you're going to sew it on,
Right.
at what size,
Right.
how you're going to push, what you're going
Right.
to stabilize with,
A lot
like
of
all of
different
those
factors,
things.
yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to get into that on Wednesday.
Some, yeah, and also I think in a previous one when you and I were talking about the types of alphabets, true types and regular OFA alphabets, that
They can all do slightly different things. So
they do.
you, the user, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record. Pull offset, underlay, and stabilize with backing, and that's going to help all of those things.
Whole
Right,
cup is
and
huge.
we showed in that one on the alphabets how we shrank the box, the alphabet, how you highlight the text box with the X.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can shrink
Right.
letters that way too.
Right.
If you're going to do, a bunch of aprons. You probably wouldn't do it if
And
you're
you're-
doing one name, but
and
if
you're-
you.
The most time you're going to see it is on all caps on letters too. So you're not going to really see it. That's why I changed it to all caps. You're not going to really see it as much on upper and lower case. So if
Okay, so I hope that helps. There is another question which is going to take me experimenting, and I
Okay.
think the answer is yes, but
So
I
you're
get a
gonna
little
have to-
scared.
You're gonna have to.
So the question is, can I change the suggested, min and max? I was thinking, I don't know the answer to that. So the question is, can I change the suggested min and max to centimeters or millimeters? I think we're talking about,
Yes.
no, I think we're talking about
XML.
here,
Can you change this min and max height?
from
The code sheet.
the centimeters to
Oh.
millimeters. And I don't think so, but the easiest way,
No,
I
you
can look at
can't.
that, but all you have to do is move the decimal point over one.
Right, and you can always go into measurement units and change your measurement units to millimeters too.
Yeah, but that's not going to change those code sheets.
Right, but you can at least see it.
Hi.
Yep.
And what is a good source to get alphabets digitized in the correct format for DesignShop? You do it with DesignShop Pro Plus. There are a few.
Good question.
There are a few people out there. I would ping the rest of Facebook and say, is anybody out there doing this? I would of course suggest you get some from us when we do them as well. So
I mean, there's
keep an
180
eye.
different alphabets in there. You can always use true type fonts. True type fonts so a little better bigger than smaller, but yeah.
And there was a reply from Edith. It was a true type font that was kind of messing with her.
Okay.
So if that's the case with Pro Plus, I don't think I'm lying. I think that is the level that's available in. You can convert true type fonts into true type fonts modified, which means it spits it out as essentially a modified embroidery version of that true type that you can go in and edit all the pieces that you want. So you're starting from kind of a baseline, bad pun, sorry, and you can edit the shapes, the letters that you want to edit. So if there's one that's giving you trouble, you can go in and edit that one and take care of that. And I believe that also takes care of some of the open type ligature funniness that you get when it tries to connect things and you don't have a character for that. I believe that also addresses that issue too.
So, and then Samantha 2 weeks ago did a little, her session that she did on Friday, she addressed digitizing your own fonts into DesignShop. So,
And
she went over that.
Scott and I are doing a big in-depth
Right.
on that this
And
week,
s-
or next week.
I mean, it really is, you have to really understand digitizing too, so it's a big part of it. So they're gonna do that one soon.
Oh, and yeah, you can also, if you're just messing with the individual stuff, you can convert it to wireframe,
Right.
which is true.
Right.
Totally true.
So you can just do right click.
Thank
and
you.
Operations, operations, and convert to wireframe.
I do some of that so often I have it set up for a
Right.
keyboard shortcut.
Yep.
Okay, other
Okay,
questions?
So other questions, if there's not any other questions. We'll go.
We've been going, I think we've been catching them.
Okay, So what causes looping? Wanna get into that one, Nate?
So this is
So looping at the beginning of the stitch, right?
it
at the
didn't
end.
specify.
Oh, okay.
So what do you do when you get looping? And that's a really sticky question because there are
Lots of reasons.
There are a few reasons out there, yeah, and the biggest one, and I will occasionally even get this from coworkers, is there anything in this design that can cause looping? And my immediate knee-jerk reaction is no, I can't digitize to create or avoid looping. And then I got to thinking about it, and I might be lying a little bit. So if the looping is at the very beginning of a design, and it's just not tying in, and so you're getting a few loops as it's trying to start, try a more aggressive lock stitch, maybe a style 5, maybe a couple more stitches on a style 1. Other things that can cause that is...
No tie-in stitches or tie-off stitches.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind. If you don't
totally
have,
fair.
If you don't have this turned on, you're going to get, get a little loop.
I'm assuming you have tie stitches. Maybe that's
Just
silly
make
of
sure,
me.
though.
I don't. That's a
Just
good point.
make sure.
But
That's a good
also,
point.
you might show the 7 and 3 works better than 6 and default.
Oh, 7.
Yeah. So a width of 7 and
Yeah.
a number of stitches of 3.
Odd number.
Odd numbers tend to help a little bit if you're doing style 1. So other things. If you are dealing with, let's look at this Melco, and it's giant and huge and whatnot. If you're dealing with the smaller one, and you're dealing with thinner satin stitches, or you're dealing with sharper curves, be careful about your travel stitch lengths. If they're longer, they can stick out, they can flap out to the side as it's sewing, so you'll get like a little, I don't have a good example, you have like a little loop to the side of your letter. And so if that's the kind of loop you're seeing, that might be your travel stitch length.
Right.
Shorten it. If your edge walks are a little too close to your edge or a little too long, that too can do that. So shorten your
That's
edge walk
huge
stitch
right
length,
there.
or increase your, I tend to use the absolute margin, and 10's a good place to start. I can get gutsy and go down to 8, but depending on what I'm doing, it may bite me occasionally. And then another one that I didn't think of until I was watching it right now, if you have really long zigzags, or if you have long underlay stitches that line up in stitch direction with your top stitches, shorter stitches sink down in, longer stitches come up through, you can have one of those loop up through. So those are all the ways that it maybe could happen in a design. Typically, that's not where I go first. Typically, when I'm...
Yeah, the edge walk, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. What you said.
But typically, if I'm seeing looping, especially if it's kind of random and all over, I'm going to go to some sort of tensiony thread feed something.
So that's what I was thinking too, the active feed. Your active feed may be too high.
Yeah.
Or it just goes like 3 tie-ins right to a fat column.
Right, right.
That too.
Right,
You know, yeah,
right.
you
If it
gotta
gets
have some
really,
shakeout
really
area.
wide column right away, yep. So make sure your active feed is, set properly for the type of fabric you're
So
sewing.
yeah, I used to teach, if you want a lot of loft in your stitches, go till you get loops and then back it off. And
Right.
loops are an indication that you're feeding a little too much. Things have changed, sensors have changed a little bit, but yeah, still looping is an indication that maybe we're feeding a little bit too much. If you're getting them every now and then, or if it's oddly regular and you flip it over and the top stitching where it loops, like you're watching the bobbin and then all of a sudden there's like no bobbin and then there's bobbin again, check the bobbin itself, clean your bobbin case, check the bobbin itself. Every now and then you can get a bobbin that has like funky tension or it got wound,
Or
and
some
every
lines caught up in the spring, yeah.
every so many loops it goes down to the side so it catches a little bit harder, and then when that releases, like the active feed's going, okay, I feel it, and then it releases and it goes, whoa, there's a bunch of thread, and then you get an occasional loop.
Yes.
So
So there's a little spring in here that it could, I don't know if you can see this that well, but there's a spring in the bobbin. And you have to push a little piece of backing in there to clean it out. That'll cause, you're bobbing and not tension right, and that could cause loops.
I used to say business cards.
Yep.
And then Melco got really new business cards that are really, really thick, and I'm like, yeah, don't use our new business cards.
Cap backing works perfect.
I'll fold a Post-it in half and not use the sticky
Piece
part.
of cap backing is
I
perfect.
mean, rarely you could have looping because your needle pulls the thread back up on some
Right.
weird sticky fabric.
See, there's lots of
or
reasons
a burr
for
on the
looping.
end of the needle. Yeah, there's weird things, but probably locks.
So the other thing real quick is, I mean, really it could be, just your what you're sewing on. If you're using backing, make sure you're using backing. That's huge to attach the backing to the fabric. So just make sure you're doing all the proper things that you need to do as well. Okay.
Well, that was kind of an ugly check
Any
everything
questions?
answer.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, capping for 3D puff. Let's do that real quick. I gotta open the graphic again. Sorry about that. I closed DesignShop and didn't have it open.
And we did a video on digitizing for Puff too.
We did. I think you even have it pulled up. Maybe you don't.
Oh, we could actually probably use this one, right?
Do it.
I had another one, but ooh. Okay, so.
So the question was, I could use a little, more of a statement. I could use a little help with capping for 3D foam.
So, capping for 3D foam. There's two ways to do it. There's a pinching method, and then there's, what's the other one called, where it's just capping it?
Capping.
Capping it, okay. So let's do the capping first because it's easier to show. So when I cap it, I use a column one. I know Nate uses different things, but typically when you cap for 3D foam, you want to do a little stitch that sticks out just a little bit, and then it's going to go the opposite direction than your top stitch. So a cap kind of looks, whoops, it kind of looks like this. So
Do pink.
Do pink.
It's easier to see.
Let me just get this right. Pink. Or red, pink.
There we go.
3D foam, 3D. So this is a cap stitch. It's a little wide. That's why it looks like that. But this is a little cap. So when you're doing puff, you have to cap the edges because otherwise your puff is going to stick up through it. What was that question?
Sorry, yeah, I was reading comments and it was about the bobbin, and Jennifer says she finds that bobbin stuff happens when she switches between black and white bobbins, which I've not experienced, but
Oh.
that's interesting. Clean your bobbin case.
Yeah.
Every time you switch bobbins.
Really, yeah. Okay, so this is done. So now I would go ahead and digitize over this. Okay, so this is a different technique than pinching. So this is probably probably a little bit more common. So this is my stitch that's going on top now for 3D puff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a pinching technique for
That's a good corner for it.
puff is actually, this is a really good corner for it. Is doing so going from, this looks like pinching. So it's going from here to here, here to here, and then it's pinching the corner. I don't need a cap on the
Yeah,
edge.
if your satin stitches get small enough, it'll go ahead and cut that
It's
foam.
going to cut it for you. So I don't need to put a cap on this one like I did this one over here.
Can you undo enough to where you get back to having
Yeah.
a cap?
Yep, let's do both.
Yeah.
Okay, there's that. So let me do the pinching now on top. Sorry about that. So I just want to go to this corner. And then this is more of a pinching technique. And I'll change the color because of course I'm just not doing that right. So again, now you can see that I don't even need a cap on the one on this one.
Now, when I'm doing this,
I knew you had something to say about this.
I'm saying, like, how far do you extend it? Do you have the cap and then pull the other one down? Like, there's a little gap in the corner. Does the foam? It always takes me, what, 2, 3,
Right.
4 sew outs
Right, you
with
gotta sew
foam.
this out. Because who knows if this is gonna, if I have this sticking out, more than likely it's gonna pull in, but you gotta sew it. I mean, you have to sew something like this.
And you'll oftentimes do kind of all or most of your caps and then go sew the cover stitches.
Right, you wouldn't do it like I did it here. Yeah, you do complete one letter at a time. What's the question?
I keep reading and I've got to stop that. I've got to choose my times to
You're
read
making me
comments.
guess.
The Jennifer just says that her black bobbins leave more fibers, which
Oh,
that's interesting.
Okay, we're back to the black bobbins.
Sorry, I read. I've
It's
got to
okay.
stop.
No, it's okay. I wonder why that is. I haven't experienced that with black bobbins, maybe more fibers. I guess maybe it depends on the type of bobbin you're using.
Could be.
You're using polyester, what type?
Or
I would think more of a cotton would leave more fibers.
Continuous filament.
You want to use continuous filament.
Okay, so those are my.
Again, and also there is let me go back to here and here, 3D foam. Go to Melco Education on YouTube and type in 3D foam, and lots of videos on 3D foam and how to
You
digitize
did one on
foam.
sewing it?
I did one on sewing,
couple
Scott's done one on
digitizing.
digitizing, so watch these, because they're really good. I think he covers both of those. It's,
Here's a good question. What's the best active feed setting when sewing on foam?
so I actually saw something on that on Facebook yesterday. I kind of had a feeling that would come up. We can't show that screen, but in your operating system, there is an actual setting. Well, for an EMT16 there is.
I was gonna say it depends on which OS you're using.
For an EMT16, there's a setting when you go into your color sequence. There's one for 2 millimeter and there's one for 3 millimeter. So the 2 millimeter is going to bring it up to, I think, 20. I can't remember. And
25.
20
Well, it
and
adds.
then 3 millimeters up to 28.
It adds about 20 or whatever's in the adjust
Right.
to your minimum. That's
So
how it works.
on your minimum, you'll see that you have a minimum number, 1 or 2 for flats, 5 or 6 or 7 for hats. It's going to add to that on your minimum.
And typically it's going to add around whatever your foam is. So if it's 2 millimeter, that's 20 points because it's just a decimal point move.
And somebody had on yesterday on Facebook, I saw a question and I responded to it, but they had their minimum set to 18. And then they had the puff setting on.
Oh, wow.
So it was way too much.
So that talk about looping.
Yeah, that would be looping. That would be looping. But yes, because that's feeding way too much thread at that point.
So and if you don't have those settings, if you don't have the ability to just apply foam to a color block, you can go in and change your minimum. When you put in the pause to put the foam in, just change your minimum there, put a pause, or not a pause, a hold, and then change your minimum back. You could use settings by color if you wanted, where you could assign that. Lots of different options there. How do you know what size of foam to use to make it look more squared versus more rounded? That
is that a question?
That is a question. That could be, you could do a few different things. You could change how much you're feeding so it doesn't pull so tight around those corners.
Right. You could buy the foam. That's actually high density foam.
That one.
Bodybuilder, yeah.
That one.
It's called
higher,
bodybuilder.
higher density
and it
foam
gives you more of a
helps.
squared off look than a rounded look, for sure.
And then back to bobbins again.
Back to bobbins.
Do magnetic bobbins make a big difference? We had a discussion about this, I don't know.
Seems like everybody has their own personal choice on bobbins.
and there are some that I think work better than others.
Me too.
Um,
I'm a coats person. I like the coats, but I know there's a lot of people that use magnetics. So
Coats has a magnetic too. I
Oh,
think.
that's right. Coats does have a magnetic. So Coats has a disposable. Here, I'll just pull this out real quick. So this is a Coats. Well, no, this is a Madeira actually, but they're just a cardboard side instead of magnetic.
So magnetic, the ones with just the magnetic core and no sides, really cool. You can only stick them in one way because that's the way the magnet goes. Problem is they're sideless. Sometimes the thread can fall off to the side.
Right.
The ones that have full sides but are magnetic, that's kind of cool because they have sides, but sometimes that magnetic full side can cause a little bit more drag than you're used to and can cause some kind of funky tension. So as long as you are kind of adapting and dealing with your bobbin tension and making sure you've got all that set.
Right.
Yeah.
Every bobbin's going to tension differently.
Go ahead and give it a shot, but if it's giving you trouble, go back to just your standard cardboard sided and go.
And it's super important to understand that if you buy a magnetic bobbin, a sideless bobbin, a Coates bobbin, when you check the tension on that, it's going to be a little bit different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So make sure you, if you're switching, change that tension.
Yeah.
I know questions, so.
No, one question. I don't know how to answer this question well. Do I recommend a good digitizer to do foam jobs?
Well, so that just depends on your experience. So if you're experienced digitizer, probably not. You can do it yourself. But if you're brand new, which a lot of people are, and there's no problem. The nice thing about having a digitizer do it for you is you can see how they did it and learn from it.
If
they're using DesignShop.
Yeah, if they're giving you an OFM, you can see.
But if you're brand new to embroidery and you just want to be successful out of the gate, yeah, have somebody do it for you. You know, digitizing isn't that expensive. Charge your customer back that price, and have something that's going to look good and you know is going to sell well.
So I think I want to reframe my answer.
Okay, good.
I think my answer in general is yes, I always recommend a good digitizer. Always, for everything. If you're that good digitizer, great. If you're not, find one.
Yeah.
Learn from them.
Right. Okay, so let's see, what other, I know we have another question. If there's not any more on there.
I think we've been getting it.
Decorative stitches rope, here you go.
Oh, so again, with the bobbins, I feel bad. This is a design shop talk and we're all about the bobbins today, but any tip when using fire-rated bobbins? Scott, I've not run them. Have you?
I haven't run those either.
I'm sorry, I haven't.
Hey, guess what? We're going to have to get some and try them.
The top thread we have,
They're
the fire.
probably like Astrum taking it, right?
Where it's a little bit fuzzier and dragging a little bit.
Too. I've heard of it, but I've never run it.
Okay. Yep. So that's going to be something for us to experiment with. Sorry. One thing, she scoots the computer closer to me.
He's doing the decorative stitch on rope.
So one of the questions on Facebook earlier, and it wasn't even related to this, I was just perusing. And one of the questions was, hey, I got this design. What's an easy way to do this in DesignShop? And I'm like, ha, I can do this. And then I got to thinking about all the different ways I would do it. So I want to show you a couple of them. So first, I thought I was going to be really, really lazy. And a lot of this depends just on how lazy I want to be. And I was going to grab a single line. And I'm holding the wrong key because this is not.
I'm going to switch with you and watch for questions.
Okay.
Time for a rope trip to Alaska for bobbins. Travis. Sorry, I was just reading that.
So I'm going to grab a single line,
trip.
and this time I'm actually going to grab the circle input tool, which is what I thought I did the first time, but I was too excited. And I'm going to make this pink so you guys can see it, and increase to match. And you're going to pretend that that lines up and is beautiful. And I'm going to change, okay, it is satin. I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to apply, I don't know if you knew you could do this, but you can apply patterns to your columns. It doesn't quite work like you think it would, but it can be really kind of cool. So I'm going to go into my patterns, and Scott, I know you put this in here back in the day, ropes. You can kind of apply a rope effect to it, so it just happened to be very convenient. I'm going to grab that design, so as soon as I select, you can see this element down here. As soon as I click on it, I have that selected. You can begin to scale this up, change the size, change the orientation, and kind of make it match. Now my big question is, did I match the direction?
That's good.
I did. If I didn't, you could flip it with those flip tools. So that's kind of a quick and easy way to do it. That's really convenient, but it does kind of leave, and let me zoom in here really tight. Your mouse is backwards from mine. It does leave these little bit of extra bits. If you wanted to get a little bit fancier and do it yourself, you could do that too. And what I would do is find one that's kind of as vertical aligned as you could get, kind of your straight on look, and then digitize just one piece. And I use
column 2, just saying. I use column 1, Scott uses column 1, Nate uses column 2.
Because, you know, I'm different.
Which is fine. Column 2 is probably the easier one to learn, really. I guess it's just we're a little bit old school.
Column too, in my opinion, works better for long areas where you want consistent density, like
Right.
script letters. If you're doing miters and all that, yeah, I'm a column 1 guy, sorry.
I'm not. I am column 2 almost all the time. All right, so I have this one piece. And what I want to be able to do is repeat this piece along a path. So I'm going to save this as a decorative stitch. And this, help me out, Scott, this is level dependent, but I don't remember what level do you?
No, it's Pro Plus.
Is it?
Yes.
Plus only,
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to copy this out, paste
For
it
sure.
into a new doc. Control C, Control N, Control V is what I just did without you seeing me.
All
Sorry.
you copy and paste hot tools,
Um,
hotkeys, I should say.
and then I'm just going to come in here. Now, what happens with these decoratives is spacing and other pieces are based on kind of your entry and exit point. So I'm going to move those. I'm going to try to move those. There we go. Pay attention to the cursor, Nate. Okay.
This will be important when he actually does the decorative stitch.
So I'm going to have those kind of line up on a line. And I'm going to try to make that line be in the middle just so I can better predict what I'm doing. Again, kind of like 3D foam, this is rarely something I get right on the first time. I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to say save as custom shape, and Sue is going to get a new decorative stitch on her computer.
For a rope, yay.
And
Notice how I said N more rope?
yeah, I put my initials on. So if you ever
Everything.
get a file back from tech support and it has NM, I've touched it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's go back here. Let's delete that. And I'm going to do the same thing I did before, but this time I'm going to use a walk stitch and the circle tool, and I'm holding Alt to make it a circle. So I know what my problem is. My default color is different than your default color.
I know.
That's why I keep doing that.
All right.
I'm going to change my walk type to decorative. And instead of this being, I'm going to go grab the one that I just did.
Hey, that looks good.
It's not bad, not bad. If it's not exactly as you want it, you can go into properties and change your spacing. I would increase this to maybe 130. And I think we're going to get a little bit, nope, too much.
Oh, I should be reading questions.
Remember what I said about me never getting this right the first time? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's a walk decorative. Yay.
So that's another way to do it. And if you wanted to alter this shape or edit these, your decorative stitches are located in the custom shapes. Just on the first drop down, go down to decorative stitches, and then you can go find the one that we just did, right click on it and say edit. And so you could go edit just that individual shape.
Do we have any? Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Any other questions? Are you seeing any more, Scott?
Nope, we're good.
Are you through that? Are you through that?
I'm done messing with your computer.
Okay, so I guess we'll just leave it for a second to make sure we don't have any more questions. Well, every Friday at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, we're doing these. So if you have questions you think of, and we can answer them next Friday and every Friday for that matter.
Sorry, Sue, for jumping in on your.
Go
But
ahead.
I was really excited about that one. No, your whole session. It was all going to be you, and then I jumped in because
No.
I'm like, I want to do this one.
That's what he wanted to do this one, which I was glad. Some of the more, the harder features, it's easier for Nate just to do because he does them all the time and I don't.
So, thank you guys very much. Thank you, Scott, for monitoring and jumping in when you could.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next Wednesday.
Yes. Oh, Wednesday. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
All right.